Well. Oh, this is great. I just got to look at my fucking nose right at the bottom there this whole time. That is my least favourite part of my face. And it's it's haunting me everywhere I go. But that's fine. I'm not vain, everybody. I mean, I guess we are. If we're putting ourselves on the internet, you've got to have a little bit of ego tied up with that.
Yeah,
I tell you what, speaking of ego though, you joined at the right time because we are hitting the big time. Crack out the Sharky, because we got a copyright strike today. Woo! Happy days. All it was the Facebook and Instagram story, because I use music from Shogun in it, and then literally 5-10 minutes after I posted it, I got an email like the production one. Yeah, well, it's just all of it because it's all meta owned, isn't it? So it's the same. And I got a fucking email from from Facebook telling me that the production company of Shogun are fucking, I think they're called like GMP or something. Shout out GMP, but they copyrighted me or us for the music, and I was like, well, hang on, because when you make the story, it gives you the option of the music that's available. So I'm not violating the copyright. If anyone's violating the copyright, it's the Zuckerberg for fucking having it on there. Why have it on there as an option if you're gonna fucking do me for it like that, GMP?
There's a lot of people who do this. There's a lot of companies do it. I've had it done to me multiple times because how much I post crap on Instagram, especially my story. I've had plenty of companies going, you can't use that music, you don't own it. And I just give them a really snotty reply like, I know I don't fucking own it, I'm just using it in fair use. I definitely do not own this, I just like it. So what's worse?
Yeah, but it's on there as an option. Like, why, if they don't want anyone using it, don't license it out to the fucking Meta company as a fucking option for people to use on their stories. Unless they're like, well, if it was personal use, that's fine, but because I'm using it to promote a show, then maybe that's the issue. But bottoms up, because that means somebody at the Shogun company now knows the name of our little show. So happy days. Hopefully they're watching. They're not watching. But anyway, yeah, so always fun to get that little ego boost. So, you know, I guess we do have it.
Copyright strike.
And now they've got to come on here and look at the bottom of my fucking nose. If anything, give me shit for that, because I've just plastered our faces all over their beautiful fucking artwork.
I was just wondering at your picture, like, well, why did you choose that one?
Well, a couple of reasons. One, it was the only one that sort of fit neatly over the horse's head. Spoiler alert, that's not my body, everybody. But also, it looks like I'm bearing the weight of this magnificent samurai warrior. So, you know, but we're going to talk about Shogun a little bit later on. We got some other news coming up. We got 28 days later, it's got some casting. Scooby-Doo's getting another show because people aren't getting mad enough about Velma. They want to test the limits of the fans. We got Fantastic Four, X-Men stuff to talk about. It's going to be a good time, hopefully. Every time I thought I had the news stories lined up for this week, they just kept piling them on. Like, so we've just picked the cream of the crop, as it were. The cream of the pop, if I may say so myself. Cut that out. So yeah, should we just jump straight into it, because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. So this is a couple of weeks old, this news now, but 28 years later, we talked a couple of weeks ago that they were doing this movie. Danny Boyle is back on board to come back to, you know, one of his sort of signature. Well, it's not a signature franchise, but once they've made this one, I guess you can call it a franchise. But they're adding to the cast. You can't even see their faces there. You could play Guess Who, right? Don't worry, we're still figuring it out. But I'll tell you who they are, listeners, viewers. Don't you worry your little heads about it. So we have Jodie Comer, who's up and coming, getting a lot of roles. She was rumored for Sue Storm for the longest time. Obviously, that went to Vanessa Kirby, but she's going to be fine. She's in 28 Years Later alongside Aaron Taylor Johnson and Ralph Fiennes. Ralph Fiennes. Now, Aaron Taylor Johnson is kind of making the rounds lately. He's been rumored for Bond, which I don't know if he. I feel like when those rumors come out, I feel like I feel like it's the actual company that released those rumors to sort of test how people react. You know what I mean? Like, and they release or leak the rumor that Aaron Taylor Johnson's up for Bond, and then if people respond positively, then they'll be like, yeah, okay, we'll do it. But if people respond badly, they're just like, what are you talking about? It's just a rumor. Don't worry about it.
It kind of felt like a rumor, but also everyone else, like, I kind of got the impression everyone's still going, could be worse.
Yeah, I didn't get an overwhelmingly positive or negative response from it. I've just people like you say, were just like, yeah, that'd be fine. It wasn't the name that I would go for, but that'd be fine. But anyway, 28 days later, my main hope out of this cast is that Ralph Fiennes isn't the villain, because how obvious is it for Ralph Fiennes to be the villain in a zombie apocalypse?
Going to be the villain. He's definitely going to be the villain.
Because as soon as you hear that casting, you're like, oh, well, he's going to be like Christopher Eccleston in the first one, right? He's going to be some like leader of like a settlement or a military or a town or whatever, and some survivors are going to show up there. He's going to be all nice and welcoming, and then he's going to turn into a fucking Nazi like in Schindler's List or whatever. I hope that he's not
a Nazi, but then he's trying to like do a redemption arc, but either way he's gonna fucking die.
Yeah, I hope so. You're gonna think he's the bad guy as soon as you see this guy in any movie. You're gonna assume that he's the bad guy. I really hope he's not. If anything, let Jodie Comer be the bad person, the bad woman, or Aaron Taylor Johnson, because he's probably going to be a villain later on this year with Craven anyway, because that movie's going to be bad.
You don't need that guy all red-eyed and sprinting at you. You just don't need it, especially like all as an undead. No thanks.
Oh, Red Eye Ralph Fiennes, mate. That's terrifying. Like zombie Nazis. We're getting Dead Snow action. Maybe that's the angle. I don't know. But I'm excited for this. I want to see where it goes. I've always said, like, in a zombie apocalypse movie, we always get right at the beginning of the apocalypse, or maybe you get like a couple of years in if you're watching like The Walking Dead or one of those kinds of things. We never get like this far ahead, so is society bouncing back, and then maybe there's like a variant of the virus, as we've all learned in our real lives in recent years, that sometimes you think a virus is calming the fuck down, and then bang, here's version 2.0 of it.
Well, I hopefully fucking not, unless like they're going to take some form of the coronavirus and piss everyone off and turn that into like a worse version. Because at the end of the last one, they're waiting for them all to die off, weren't they? Like,
yeah, it seemed like things were. It seemed like it was pretty hopeful. But what I do hope is that maybe they can take some inspiration from real life events and sort of, incorporate some sort of political commentary for maybe how things are handled, how things could be handled, should be handled. What does that look like in a desolated, sort of decimated society after they've already been through a zombie apocalypse? Are we bouncing back, or are we still just like living in fucking darkened tower blocks, hold up boards on the windows hoping for the best kind of situation? So I want to see what angle they're going to go with it.
The rich are still rich and the poor are still poor.
Oh, of course they are, because maybe we do need some zombies, nibble them nepotists, just whittle them down a little bit. I'm not saying that should happen.
Zombies wouldn't be bad, but fucking running zombies, no. whoever
Yeah.
came up with that, like.
And they are running zombies. I'm glad you said that, because every time this fucking 28 days later movie or 28 weeks, 28 years, whatever comes up, I've always got to say it again and again. They're zombies. Purists deal with it. They just run. The mode of transport doesn't dictate what's in their hearts, and what's in their heart is a big Z, like Zorro's just carved it in there. All right. So, but speaking of things that are close to people's hearts, Scooby-Doo. A lot of people grown up with Scooby-Doo McManus. There's been countless versions. Some of the more recent ones not being so popular, you know, like your Velma or that Scoob movie that didn't even get released. That's how bad that apparently was. You know, that got people up in arms. Some of the newer versions, is it Be Cool Scooby-Doo and What's New Scooby-Doo, you know, kind of took a more you know, zany approach to like the artwork and the storytelling. You know, a bit more of like
there was supposed to be a Scrappy-Doo movie, like a standalone Scrappy-Doo movie.
In this climate, you can't do that. You want to get people on board. I mean, having said that, I suppose it's not too different with like something like a Velma, how a lot of like older fans and older generations reacted badly to it. Because when Scrappy-Doo was introduced, a lot of older classic Scooby-Doo fans did not like Scrappy-Doo one bit. But then there's a lot of people that grew up from like our generation who
loved it.
That's how they remember it. Scrappy-Doo was like always part of the...
Yeah, and all he wanted was just like, come on, I'll actually fight you and fight you at the same time. These not, we're just going to capture. I'll fuck you up.
Well, yeah,
like,
I mean,
hey kid.
I don't love him, but you know, I grew up just associating Scrappy with like as much as part of the gang as everyone else. You know, depending on which version of the show they were rerunning on Saturday mornings or whatever. Sometimes I'd watch an episode of Scooby-Doo and Scrappy was there. Other times he wasn't there and I was fine either way. Sometimes they had Scooby's white cousin with the hillbilly hat. You know, what was his name? Doopy or whatever he fucking was. You remember him?
Yeah, I do now. That was like a flashback with the cool start chat and just like, hey, Scoob.
Yeah, man. So my point is, there's different versions of this for everyone, but this version is being produced by Greg Berlanti, who was the main creative force on the CW Arrow universe for DC. So we can expect this. This is going to be live action, obviously. So this is going to be, presumably, it's going to be like edgy, angsty, heartthrob teens, you know, moody murder mystery kind of vibe. I'm imagining like Riverdale, but with a talking dog. Which, if you've seen Riverdale, isn't even that much of a stretch, because that show went off the rails so hard, you know, in a way that only Archie can do. But are you down for this? Are you going to watch a live action Scooby-Doo? Do you think it can work?
I actually do, because I actually, whatever everyone said about the last movies and how like it's kind of become a cult thing now with Shaggy and like the memes that's always going about. I think everyone's gonna start off like what they're gonna do now, what they're gonna put in this, it's definitely gonna be for kids, but it's also, I think it's gonna have the aspect of like for adults, like there's all the bits and laughs for you that you're gonna get out of this.
Because Matthew Lillard's been talking a lot lately, and there's been chatter about this on the internet for a couple of years now. We want an adult version, bring back the OG Scooby-Doo movie cast. Let's have, you know, like a darker, edgier, kind of more adult-oriented version of the show. Matthew Lillard's down, but Freddie Prinze Jr. has been come out, is pretty firm, is like, I'm not going back to that.
Yeah, I've seen an interview with him. It's like, that was ages ago. I'm done with that franchise. But the amount of shit I got for it.
Yeah, I don't even think it's Scooby-Doo, because he's like, I think he's just done acting. He said the same stuff about Star Wars. So I wouldn't aim it personally at Scooby-Doo.
Did so much shit. I had no idea how much stuff he actually did with Lucasfilm and so until I see like.
Oh yeah, man. I'm not a big Star Wars animated guy, but yeah, people love him in that. And but yeah, I think, and I haven't watched Velma. I know it got some of the worst ratings of any show, but also some of the highest views of any show. So they renewed that for season 2
You
against
clearly
all
understand
odds.
why it got like some of the highest views as well. Like
People wanted to watch it to hate it, which is better at least than where people will just downvote something and hate on it without even watching it. So at least, you know, at least the haters were doing their homework. You know what I mean? But
yeah, and all the up view ones, all the pairs, the stuff in the footage.
oh yeah, there is a rabid Velma fan base.
Yeah,
and maybe not all of them. I think maybe the Venn diagram isn't crossing over that hard with the people that were hating on the Velma show. I'm not saying that all of the people that hate that show are racists, but there's probably a big chunk of them who are not. Is it Mindy Kaling, fans of that particular casting? Doesn't matter to me. Beauty is beauty, Velma. You have at it, girl. But yeah, so I think there's a big market for people who finally, you know, like you say, after all the memes of like Stoner Shaggy and, you know, all these like hippie jokes and, oh, you know, Scooby-Doo taught us that the monsters were really just the old white men all along and stuff. I do think there is definitely a catchment for that kind of edgy, you know, angsty version of Scooby-Doo. I do think it's going to do well. And Netflix having a reasonable track record lately with like adapting, you know, animated series into live action. You know, they've had One Piece and Avatar: The Last Airbender, all things with very, you know, heated fans, and they seem to have done pretty well. So I think this will be okay. The question is, do we get like a photorealistic dog, or is he going to be like a Roger Rabbit looking dog? You know,
I think they're going to go half and half with it.
Because I want them to. I'd love them to just go all out and just like full on like Lion King. You know, like the new Lion King, where it just looks like a moody, savage, fucking deadly, vicious animal.
Yeah,
you know,
but you also
that just
you've got also make them look like Scooby Doo. You just can't, you know, just be.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a brown dog. Like, what do you want? People are going to criticize it. People, when those first images come out, people are going to criticize the shit out of it, and it's just like, come on, guys, it's a brown dog. Like, it's going to be a brown dog. What fucking more do you want? Don't worry about it. We'll be fine.
It's a Great Dane.
It's a brown Great Dane. Like, what could go wrong?
Scooby-Doo's huge.
Speaking of how things look, completely forgot to add this onto the news stories, but we'll come on to it. I don't know if you've got the image of the Superman suit. Did you have that loaded up in there? Because I sent it the other day, but then I didn't put it in the notes today.
I saw it earlier. I was thinking I'd have to do that.
Well, there we go. We are on it, maybe, hopefully. Either way, because it just occurred to me, because I'm talking about like the design of Scooby. I'm like, it's not like people can come saying, oh, you've put too many armor plating lines and you've modernized it and it's too dark and the boots are too long or the cape's too short. It's like, it's a dog. You can't go wrong with the design of a dog. It's a naked dog, because your dogs are naked, everyone. And if you're putting clothes on your dog, stop it. Just stop it. Your dog doesn't need a puffer jacket, okay? I don't care where you are. Don't care what time of year it is. But anyway, that's fine. So yeah, let's talk about it. Even if we haven't got the image up, it's possibly the biggest news story of the week. I mean, not really. I would think some of the other casting is more interesting, because we all knew we were getting a new Superman. James Gunn's been filming this for a couple of months now. Start of a new DC universe. He's been talking a whole lot of talk about doing a more classic, traditional, back to basics wholesome, heartfelt, you know, traditional Superman,
Yeah.
and then he releases an image of what basically looks like the Zack Snyder Superman. So I'm getting a lot of reactions online. People, it seems pretty mixed. I'm seeing more negative reactions to this new Superman suit than I am positive. But then the negative is always louder online, right? Because the people who don't care to comment on this stuff aren't the people commenting online, you know, like the people, the regular everyday kind of average viewers, they don't give a shit about this stuff. They'll see the movie when the movie comes out. So I do think the negative is always louder, unfortunately. But you saw the Superman suit, McManus. I haven't
Yeah.
had your take on this yet.
I don't like the folds.
Too foldy, too liney, too foldy. Yeah.
I just, it's the first thing I like the S. I do like it because it's just like, you've seen this.
S is good.
But,
the S is very good. I'll give it that.
like, what is that?
Yeah.
It's just. Oof.
Now, I'm not gonna like hate on it too much. I'd like to see it more when he's standing up. I think less of the problem seems to be not necessarily with the suit itself, but it's the fact of it's kind of the context in which he presented it, where it's like, there it is. So he's not looking very enthusiastic about going out to save the world from whatever that big purple laser is in the background there. And I think people were more hoping for a, you know, a stand-up kind of straight, smiling kind of, like I said, traditional Superman who's a bit more happy to be helping, you know, because that was the biggest criticism of the Snyderverse, is that everyone was so miserable and everything was so dark and desaturated. And he just doesn't look like he doesn't look like he wants to give a shit, to be honest. I think that's more the issue. I think if you had this same suit, but he was standing up, you know, hands on the hips, little bit of a grin, then I think that would have swayed it a long way. So I'd like to see him standing up. Yeah, don't worry, it's fine. At least it's not my nose anymore. And yeah, I don't know. The big talking point, I think, however, is if you do look closely at his crotch, everybody, and we all know you're going to look there, all right?
He's got the pants on.
The trunks are back in town. I better not sing too much because we'll get another copyright. But the trunks are definitely back. I hope it works when we see more of this. But even if it doesn't work, I'm glad that they took the swing. I'm glad that they're trying to bring them back. To be honest, I think you had to bring them back, because if you didn't have them and you had this coloring and this kind of texture, then you're basically running into, well, how is this different, you know? So he's got the little curl. He's got the curl. The curl's back. A lot of people are very passionate about the curl. I could live with, you know, I could take or leave the curl. That's fine. Some people were mad about the collar. The collar is very divisive. Some people like the more traditional neckline with the cape tucked into the shoulders. Again, I would rather not have the collar, but it's not particularly a deal breaker for me. What matters to me is that it's the vibe of this Superman is good, and I don't think this image isn't selling the vibe that I want. But I'll wait until we hopefully eventually see more, you know, of him in action and standing up, you know, put those trunks out front and center, just really thrust towards the camera and let us have it all up in our faces. So
yes, because
I'm excited about that.
A giant crotch shot from Callum.
Just I want the poster to just be his fucking crotch. Just bulge, just the bulge, and then just Superman 2025 written right across his fucking lumps. So that's what I want. But we don't always get what we want, McManus. No. Sometimes we get a regular version and a director's cut version of a movie that we didn't like. Sometimes we get Rebel Moon Part 1 and Part 2, and we both didn't really. I think we both thought part one was okay, and then part two was a letdown. But we knew before these even came out that they were going to be getting R-rated director's cuts, which, despite how much I was let down by part two, I'm still excited to see how different the extended versions are, if they really make a difference. To be honest, I'm more just hoping, to have some of my initial hopes for these movies to be kind of vindicated, and these versions are actually going to be significantly different and good. But what's going to be significantly different, McManus, is if people weren't confused enough by the decision to put part one, part two, director's cut, theatrical cut, whatever. Now we're getting, it's not even going to have the same title. So now Rebel Moon Part 1 is going to be going from Child of Fire to Chalice of Blood. Already that's a more R-rated title. But do you think that adds confusion? Like, people are going to see Rebel Moon, Chalice of Blood. They'll be like, oh, Part 3's out. I hated the first two. Maybe I'll like Part 3. And then they get halfway into watching what they think is Part 3. And it's like, hang on a minute. Is this just part one with extra steps all over again? What do you feel? You think this is a bad idea, or is the different title make you more excited?
When I found out, like, when I was actually about 15 minutes through the first movie, it was just like, well, when it actually starts, like, I hope there's a fucking R-rated version of this. Like,
you can tell.
I want to see
you can tell when you're watching
I want to see that giant hole you just pump through that guy's head. Like,
oh, absolutely.
Because absolutely. Like, as Snyder does, he's just like pumps holding people, and then there's the perfect cylindrical shape, but with the burn marks going through, like, boom. Like, I want to see that.
You can tell more in the first part, I think, where there's definitely sort of gaps in the editing of the action where you're like, oh, okay, there is going to be like a hand cut or a decapitation or a stab wound.
The living crap out of the movie. And not, you can tell at the points where he does it.
Yeah, you could say he cut out the cuts. So there's a lot of cutting, cutception. But yeah, so Chalice of Blood. Whatever. I mean, come on, Zach.
Still gonna watch it.
I'm still gonna watch it. Apparently there's going to be an alien sex scene. We don't get enough of those in movies anymore, unless you count John Hurt and the Face Hugger, right? So, yeah, just more confusion and more layers of reasons for people to not want to watch this movie, which these movies have done a good enough job of making people not want to watch this version or any other version. So when you go on Netflix in 6 months and you type in Rebel Moon, you're going to have 4 different titles come up, and it's only 2 different movies. But those 2 different movies are only 2 parts of 1 different movie. So what if somebody goes on there, they click on one version of part 1 and a different version of part 2, and you just kind of mixing and matching and making your own fucking Picasso of a movie.
I hope these are labelled clearly.
I hope so. Or maybe if these versions are better, just get rid of the other ones. Just fucking get them off of there. Like, nobody cares. Like, just one of each is fine. But whatever.
You're gonna have people out there who don't like gore, right?
I guess so. But then, are they the same people that are fans of Zack Snyder? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see.
I don't think you are. You don't like gore. You're watching a Zack Snyder movie.
Yeah, exactly. But in case there was any doubt or confusion, they have at the very least been officially confirmed to be R-rated, which was the point in the first place. But it's nice to have it in writing. So there's going to be gore, sexual content, and graphic nudity. That's what everyone wants. That's all. Those 3 things is what's missing from Star Wars, But also in Zack Snyder's Star Wars, all the other good things about Star Wars are also missing. So it swings and roundabouts. Be careful what you wish for, people. Be careful what you wish for. And I should have been careful what I wish for, because for the longest time since we started doing this show, it was like that Fantastic Forecasting news is coming any day now. Any day. I predicted at the end of our very first episode of this show that by the time we did our second episode, we were going to get that casting news of the 4 core members, and then there was a writer's strike and an actor's strike, and nobody was talking about things, nobody was making deals, nobody was doing movies, nothing was happening. It took until February of this year, and we eventually got the casting of Pedro Pascal, Vanessa Kirby, Ebon Moss-Baccarat, if I'm saying that right, and Joseph Quinn. It's a fantastic 4. I'm a lifelong fan. I'm pretty cool with the casting. It's not, I don't love it, but again, I want to see what we do, because I loved the casting of the last one, and look where that went. So I'm all down for that. There's been no confirmation who the villain is. The speculation for the longest time is that Galactus was going to be the villain. We hear nothing. There was rumours of Javier Bardem or maybe Antonio Banderas were up for the role. Nothing came of that. And then, bang, we get Paul Waterhauser, who kind of is shot to fame in the last couple of years. He was in Clint Eastwood's Richard Jewell. Is it Richard Jewell? That movie about the bomb suspect guy or whatever. This guy's pretty likable. He's making his way through Hollywood at the moment. You know, later on in his life, fantastic character actor. He's been announced in an undisclosed role. Now you can't see his face properly because you got my face instead. I'm sorry, everyone. Right? I don't want to be judgmental, but you see Paul Waterhouse's face. Look him up if you need to. It's very hard to not instantly think Mole Man. Now, I don't want to body shame. I don't want to cast aspersions on anyone's physical appearance, but he is a larger white man with brown hair and a beard. I'm like, that's got to be a Mole Man, right? There you go. Tell me that's not a Mole Man right there. But then I'm hearing speculation that he might be the voice of Herbie the robot, who is pretty much confirmed to be in this movie. I believe Herbie was in the teaser poster that they released. So Herbie's in this movie. He's a robot butler, if you're not familiar. All right. So maybe you get this quirky character actor to do a fun robot, and I'm just being ignorant for assuming that he's going to be Mole Man, right? And then bang, 2 days later, John Malkovich is also being confirmed to be in this movie again, undisclosed role. Now, again, I don't want to be judgmental. I don't want to be presumptuous. But I look at John Malkovich and I see a nihilist. I see a mean, gangly, fucking stick insect, fucking alien from another dimension. Sorry, John, I love you, but that's what you look like.
Yeah, because if he's fucking Doom, I'm going to lose my shit.
Now, I would, again, you know, they could do a different version of Doom. I would hope for a more traditional Doom. Neither of these two scream Doctor Doom to me at all. I think Doctor Doom is a casting we won't get too much later, because I don't think he's going to have a big part in the movie. Having said that, I don't think Mole Man or Annihilus are even necessarily going to be in this movie, let alone have a main part, especially if Galactus is going to be the main villain. But then, I mean, John Malkovich, maybe he could be a Herbie. He could be a Mole Man. I don't know. He could be the Puppet Master. If you look at the comic book image of the Puppet Master, he basically looks like John Malkovich. Again, not a character I would assume was going to be in this movie. But maybe, you know, maybe there's an opening action scene. They're fighting one of the kind of extended, you know, lesser known Fantastic Four villains before we get to the main bad of Galactus. I tell you what, before I ask your opinion on this, McManus, my dream opening scene for a Fantastic Four movie would be the recreation of issue 1, where it's all 4 of them fighting the big green monster coming out of the ground, and it's one of Mole Man's monsters, right? You must know the image. You've seen it. I guarantee you've seen it. Anyone look up Fantastic Four issue 1. It's the Fantastic Four, not even in their uniforms, just regular old clothes, and they're fighting Mole Man and a big monster. That would be my dream for this movie. Don't think it's going to happen. McManus, who do you think these two fuckers are playing?
Wait, you say Puppet Master now, it's like, oh, that's eerie. Like you see
He
some of
looks
the
just like
renditions of
him.
him. He does, especially the head. But
All about the head, baby.
yeah, so that's what I'm thinking. And with what's his name?
Paul Waterhauser.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to things. No, he's already cast, isn't he? So it's a real.
Could be Herbie the Robot. I could see
Yeah.
him being a fun, quirky little robot-like voice.
Yeah, because he's got the voice as well.
Yeah,
So
absolutely got the voice. But what we do know is that we have got a Galactus as well. Because another 2 days after this, or maybe even 1 day after this, we get confirmation that Ralph Ineson is playing Galactus. Now, some of you may not know who this actor is. This came out of nowhere for me personally, but you would have seen this actor in many things. He was Chris Finch in The Office. He threw a shoe over a pub. What have you done with your life? Right? He's in Game of Thrones. He's a pretty significant villain from my understanding. Game of Thrones, which is, I didn't watch Game of Thrones, but apparently in that
he's a dickhead. But
yeah, he's always a dickhead in everything that you see him in. But apparently his character in Game of Thrones, he's got a very big, booming kind of galactic-y kind of potential like voice. He also appeared as a very minor character in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's one of the Ravagers in Guardians 1 and 2, I believe. But that doesn't matter. Gemma Chan's played multiple characters. There's been enough of these movies. Not everyone follows the fucking casting news, all right? Not everyone is watching Pop Rose podcast. By the way, if you are watching the Pop Rose podcast, and you should be, and if you're not listening to me anyway, so it doesn't matter. But comment below, let us know who you think these two are playing, right? Like, am I being a dick for assuming that the bald guy is the puppet master or a nihilist, and the big guy is the mole man? I'm not saying he's unattractive, okay? Some of you, contrary to popular belief, especially with that meme going around lately, some people like a bear every now and then. You know what I'm saying? Right? So he might be your type, but he's definitely a mole man type. I'm sorry. Or maybe I'm just hoping because I want to see that recreation of the first battle with the mole man and Malkovich, Annihilus, alien insect from another dimension. Maybe a bit much to be cramming into the first movie, especially if we're doing Galactus and we're doing this potentially universe hopping time travel story, introducing the whole new team, Herbie the Robot.
They've got to do something that actually has to make people drop their jaw.
You've got to grab people by the fucking cojones and absolutely, you've got to do something. Yeah, and maybe they throw all the villains at the wall because we've had 4 Fantastic Four movies, if you include the unreleased Roger Corman one, which may or may not be the best version we've had yet. You can watch it on YouTube. Go check that out if you want to have a good time. But all of them has had Doctor Doom as the villain. Even Rise of the Silver Surfer, which sort of had Galactus, but not really. Obviously, we've already confirmed that we've got Silver Surfer in this movie, maybe even 2 versions of Silver Surfer in this movie. There's a lot of stuff. But like you say...
Whose idea? What? I'm sorry, I'm going back to the old movie. Like, let's make Galactus a giant cloud in space. Like,
yeah.
who the fuck said yes?
It's pretty wild. I mean, I think at the time, we didn't really have a full grasp on how you would show somebody that massive. Maybe the effects weren't quite there. And I do kind of like the idea of Galactus being more of this force of nature. you know, that's just like a big wave of destruction that just swipes across the planet and just eats it up. You know, I like the idea of it, didn't like the execution of it. And, you know, but then and to be honest, even since then, I've thought, how could we ever really get a Galactus? How do you show something on that scale? And even from like a cinematography standpoint, forget the visual effects aspect, but from a framing like perspective, how do we even shoot that so that we can see this guy on the screen and see our heroes on the screen and also get some kind of emotional,
I
you
think
know,
I
thing
think
out of anyone?
Immortals was a definite run up to that. Like, so like
You,
let's
you
film
mean
this.
Eternals?
Eternals, sorry.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as I was just going to say this as well. As soon as I saw Eternals, I was like, yeah, we can do it. We're ready. We're ready for Galactus now. Because
Like, you can do that one.
those scenes where Gemma Chan gets transported up to talk to Arishem, I felt the terror of like, can you imagine being like this big, just standing in front of something that massive, you know, and seeing that on a big screen?
Like, how many people
I felt the
like,
scale.
how many people on that world would looked up and went, well, fuck that.
Mate, this dude, if this dude is like within like a million miles of the planet, all the crops are dying. There's no sunlight. Like this is a big deal. Like, you can't just take this stuff lightly. And, you know, some people might kind of complain about the internal logic of the Eternals and why haven't they addressed the hand coming out of the planet yet, or whatever. But, you know, I'm willing to suspend some disbelief. And I think for how big of an idea, literally and figuratively, that movie was dealing with, I think it's actually one of the best MCU movies, full stop. I fucking love the Eternals. I think they did a really good job with setting up a whole bunch of new characters, big characters, small characters, everything in between. And hopefully Fantastic Four is able to like take that ball, run with it, but also do something that, again, like you say, is really going to grab people's attention, really going to be something different that we've not seen, you know, not only in a superhero movie, but just in like an action adventure, sci-fi, you know, family, you know, kind of affair. So fingers crossed, because if they get it wrong, if you get Fantastic Four wrong 5 times in a row, you are done. You can never recover from that. That is it.
Just bury it.
It is dead at that point. So no pressure. But please, if you're going to throw all these villains in there, all these crazy characters, just make it good, make it fun, make it memorable, for fuck's sake. You know,
literally.
Just come on. But
they need shock. They need something to shock us, and something like, look, this is fucking awesome. Like, why didn't they do it like this?
What I'm worried about though is a lot of people are on the same page to like, do something different, surprise us, make us, you know, give us the unexpected. But as soon as any casting or, you know, story choice in any movie is not what people are expecting, the first people to complain are the same people that wanted something different. But if you're going to ask for something different, you've got to be prepared for something different. Okay, so you're getting the Silver Surfer casting news. Oh my God, it's a woman. Okay, relax. But then you can't have your cake and eat it. If you want something different, you've got to be fucking ready for something different, and you've got to have your mind open to, you know. Here's another good example, and I don't love the movie, but Star Wars: The Last Jedi, hate it or love it, they took a swing and they made it different to the other Star Wars movies. For better or worse, it had a singular artistic vision. You might not agree with the character choices. You might not like Rose Tico, whatever it is that you didn't like about it. You know, Luke threw the lightsaber, boo-hoo, right? But it tried to do something, you know, it had it had a vision, it had a point to it,
and
and
all the fan
yeah.
bases came back with, "How fucking dare you!"
Well, this is it. So, and I do worry that, you know, the studios are seeing this. You know, last year was really rough for Marvel and a lot of the other, and even Warner Bros. You know, a lot of their big franchise movies just didn't do as well as you would usually expect them to, and people, there is this air of people getting kind of like tired. We're kind of done with this big blockbuster stuff. We want more interesting things. You know, we want everything everywhere all at once. You know, we want Abigail's. We want things that are going to kind of push the boundaries of, and things that we haven't seen as much of. But at the same time, you've got to toe that line, because if you take it too far in one direction, people are going to hate it, and if you try and play it too safe, people are going to hate it. So I don't envy the decisions being made by people with these movies coming out next year, mainly Superman, Fantastic Four, Captain America. A lot of these big IPs are like really riding a razor's edge, and the whole house of cards could come, you know,
Yeah.
collapsing down, or it could really blow people away, and we bring a bit more faith back to the genre, you know?
What I think is just happening is people are trying to please too many fucking people, and they're not pleasing the right ones. And this it's happened where people have lost their fucking jobs over. Like, well, this hasn't successfully done what we really wanted to. Yeah, because you probably butted in 24 fucking times, told them each week how to change the fucking movie, and now you're bitching at them why the movie sucks. Right?
Yeah,
So
the
go
fault
fuck
definitely
yourself.
the fault definitely lies on two sides as well. Like, fans need to stop fucking taking everything so offensively, making it a political statement, and ranting and raving about it on the internet. Fans need to stop doing that. But at the same time, fans are going to do that, and the studio needs to stop fucking listening to it and stop trying to make all these creative decisions that are tailored to fit every criticism that the fans, because then you're just making it by committee, not only with your producers, but, you know, now everyone with a fucking keyboard is a producer. You can't listen to it. You can't listen to everyone. Just James Gunn, take his social media away. He spends too much time on there anyway. He should know that by now, right? These people just stop worrying about what the fans want, and then the studio needs to just pick a director that they're going to trust, pick writers that they're going to trust who have a good track record, not like Sony getting the Morbius writers to do Madam Web after Morbius already flopped. Like, what are we doing? Pick people that you trust, fuck everyone else off, and just focus on making something that's good, fun, and interesting. It shouldn't be that hard. These are movies. They're supposed to be good, fun, and interesting. Do you really need me to tell you that? Fuck. Moving on. But sometimes we do get things that are new, fun, and interesting. Maybe fun's a bit of a extreme term, because it was good, maybe. We'll see what we think of it when we get into this conversation. It was definitely interesting. It was new, other than the fact that it's based on a book and an old TV show, but it's not one of these properties or IPs that everyone is clamoring for. Everyone wants to have an opinion on. I am talking about Shogun. If you saw the thumbnail, you knew this was coming. Okay. And this has been wrapped now for a couple of weeks at this point. We've had some technical issues, we've had some stuff going on, but it does mean that we've had time to watch all 10 fucking hour-long episodes. Pay attention. I say that like I'm complaining, but also pay attention, Disney, with your 22-minute fucking fluff filler bullshit that you're giving us. Okay.
Fucking annoying that is.
This show is very big and epic in scale, and again, it's not like they're not spending as much money on this show as they're spending on a fucking Obi-Wan series, and yet somehow this show looks and just feels big, epic, broad. It's a tale as old as time. You've got you've got sailors washing up in an unknown land. There's going to be culture clashes. There's going to be subtitles. Everyone put your fucking specs on and buckle up. All right. I didn't know anything about this show going in. I didn't know anything about the story. I didn't know what to expect. I don't know if it was a remake of Tom Cruise in The Last Samurai. You know, I didn't know if it was going to be an all Japanese cast and just, like historical drama. I didn't know what we were going to get. And I was pleasantly surprised for the most part coming in, not to play my hand completely coming out the gate, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows, both for me watching this show and for the characters involved in this show. Better get your fucking strong stomachs on, guys and girls, because it's hard to watch in places. It gets deep, it gets dark, it's very dense as far as like the plot and the story and all the different moving parts. Maybe a little bit too dense and moving in places, depending on your tastes. I know some people are not having that problem. If you're used to watching something like a Game of Thrones, or if you're more into like historical kind of dramatic kind of stuff, then you probably get on board with this a lot quicker than somebody who's been watching Obi-Wan for the last 3 years, But going into this, McManus, what did you know about it, and what were your kind of overall like general thoughts as you're getting into it?
I didn't know anything about it, didn't know about the book, didn't know about any of it until I started looking it up.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, going into it, I saw a trailer, like I must have seen the first trailer 2 or 3 days before it came out, and I was like, oh, there's a new effects show going on. It's called Shogun. This looks fucking awesome. I'm going to watch this. I'll put it in my wish list. Or watch this. And I did. And I just waited the morning it came out, sat there, and it just dropped 2 episodes. I didn't know there were going to be 2 episodes out. It was like, just happily surprised. There was 2. It's like, oh, fuck. And the way it started, just, it was very like a Game of Thrones episode, but also you left wondering, like, where's this gonna go?
Yeah, so I didn't even watch a trailer for this. All I'd heard was that, it was like a, some kind of English soldier, sailor, explorer type. Now he's in ancient feudal Japan, and oh boy, is it feudal. We'll get into that a bit more soon. And yeah, so starting in that, they're on a ship. We're not exactly sure what they're doing. Are they pirates? Are they poachers? Are they explorers? Are they colonists? What is the situation? All we know is they've been caught. They've been had. The Japanese are reeling these fuckers in, and we know it's going to be a rough road before these guys are going anywhere, right? And going in with John Blackthorne, not a very likable character at the beginning of this. He's all scraggly, he's got this like Gary Oldman in Harry Potter like look to him, greasy hair.
And then his voice.
Not the most, his voice is not the most pleasant to listen to, mind you. He has been like dehydrated, starving on a boat for fuck knows how long or whatever. So that's fine. And straight away, you get this terror, right? Of you're stuck in this new place. You can't communicate. If your intentions are good, if they're bad, it doesn't matter, because you can't tell them what you're here to do or who you are, or you can't communicate with these people. You're fucked, regardless of if you're there to fucking give glitter and rainbows out to the masses. Doesn't matter. They don't know, and you don't know. So we're capturing these poor men. These poor men They have no idea what's coming to them, right? And either do we, but we find out soon enough. I believe you put it best, McManus, when you said sailor soup.
Pirate soup.
Pirate soup.
Yep.
Pirate soup.
The scene of pirate soup. I was not expecting that. That was.
They just throw it. They're like, right. First up, we're gonna make an example out of one of these guys.
Yeah.
And spoilers, by the way, we're not necessarily try to go out of our way to give spoilers, but we are talking about the whole show as a whole. So, you know, stuff that's happened in episodes 1 to 9, you know, it's all going to be mixed in there. So if you haven't watched this and you want to watch it, proceed with caution, and then come back, give us a click, give us a like, give us a comment, and tell us what you thought afterwards. But anyway, this bitch is boiled, and he gets so boiled, he starts banging his own head. He's just like, I need to get this done. I cannot deal with this. I'm just going to wreck myself off the side of this cauldron so I do not have to live through this fucking agony.
And they leave him all night as well. Like, you can't get out of it, otherwise you're going to get fucking murdered. Either way, you're dead.
Slow cooked. You want him tender. Yeah. You want him to fall off the bone and be and
you just
be
hear
juicy.
the screaming in the distance, and most people would just like they're just sitting back like.
Yeah, and that's very clearly.
This is just a Tuesday.
Yeah, that is very clearly like that's the that's the reason they do this, right? Because they want to make an example out of one of these, and they want these other like 15 dudes or whatever to hear that screaming all night, so they know when they got to know when the questions start coming, they better start fucking answering. Even though they can't communicate, you just want to set the record straight. This is the power dynamics. You're on our turf now. This is how we do shit. And obviously, a major part of this whole show is this clash of the cultures, right? And these different ideologies of kind of how to handle situations regarding, like, you know, prisoners or war, or, you know, just even how you manage each other within your own culture, right? And straight after this, just so we know that they're not racist, the Japanese people, they're not just racist because they treat their own with the same level of savagery as these poor sailors be getting, because we have this big old meeting, this council meeting, where we're kind of setting the stakes up for you know, the political landscape. You've got these different factions, and each faction has like a representative on this council. They're all wanting more power than they've got. Some of them don't like other ones. There's a lot of sort of interpolitical dynamics that we're kind of just thrown into. And to be honest, sometimes I felt like it was a bit too much thrown into, but then I also think that that's probably at least partly intentional, because we feel how John feels, right? Because we're just in this and we're just like, I don't know necessarily who's friendly with who or why everyone's doing what they're doing. All I know is I'm seeing this shit unfold and I can't stop watching, not only because it's like a train wreck and I want to find out how it ends, but also my very own survival might depend on it. And one guy, poor guy, is like, I don't like how my council representative is being spoken to. I feel like this is a valid time for me to maybe say something and have my voice heard in this democracy.
Just shut your fucking face.
Absolutely fucking not. Now, not only are we going to kill you, we're going to kill your newborn son, because we think you are such a prick that we do not want anyone else of your bloodline. That is it. You are.
You spoke out of term. You're a dickhead. Go die and take your lineage.
You're a dickhead. Your baby son's a dickhead, and your wife, she's not a dickhead, but she's going to feel like a dickhead for the rest of this show. I'd like to full disclaimer, I'm not great with names. Even if I did know the names, I probably wouldn't say the names right. So some of these characters, I do have little nicknames for. They're not offensive. Don't worry. Just sometimes little acronyms or initials or something. But hopefully you can all follow it. And I don't know how well you know any of this stuff, McManus, but we'll see how we get in. All right. So the wife I will be referring to as DFL, and that's dead family lady, because that's what she is, right? She's the lady with the dead family. And we set up a lot of these main players who are gonna we're gonna be going through. We've got Toranaga, who's obviously the chief sort of leader of the group that we're following. I'm trying to.
Played by Hiroyuki Sanada.
There we go. He's got the deets. I knew I could rely on somebody other than myself. Right. So straight away, like, we're seeing that this guy, he's stoic. I mean, they're all kind of stoic, apart from the occasional dickhead that speaks out of turn and gets their family killed, right? But they're all pretty stoic, but they've all got clearly defined personalities. We've got Yabashinge. Am I getting that right? Who's sort of like the second in command to Toranaga, and he maybe has his own agenda going on. He's pretty great. We've got Mariko, Lady Mariko Sama, depending on how you want to like refer with the
Mariko.
Mariko. All right. So we got old Mary Sue over it. No, I'm kidding.
Coda Mariko.
Right. She's obviously everyone's got conflict, everyone's got troubles, and we're kind of just thrown into the middle of all of this. And it's these personal struggles and how they're going to influence the greater political struggle, and then also how those political struggles are going to take their toll on everyone, and everyone's like personal life and well-being, sometimes to the point where you will have no more personal life or well-being left anymore. Like, this is what I'm saying, man. They call it feudal Japan, and obviously I've heard that expression, not fully up on my Japanese history, so forgive me on that. But this is my longest time, again, 10 fucking hours living with this stuff. It's stressful. How do they cope? How are they surviving? Everyone's, for the most part, is pretty casual. I might die if I say the wrong thing or I do the wrong thing, or maybe an army's just going to invade in the middle of the night. Like, this is no way to live.
And if you're gonna end, if you don't end up fucking offending someone or having your family wiped out, the fucking earthquakes will do it for you. It's like
there is trouble at every turn. And I was looking at my own life watching this. I'm like, I'm anxious about like if my electricity is gonna run out, and I've got to run out and I've got to put the key in like in the middle of the show or something, and my lights all just, they're not going to. I checked before, but just as an example of like all these things that we get worried about, our jobs and our rent and our bills. This show, as much as I felt so stressed watching it all the time, just wondering what's going to happen to all of these people, it weirdly gave me comfort in my own life. I'm like, man, we really don't have that much to worry about these days, do we?
No, because this is everything to fucking worry about back then.
It's a fucking walk in the park, mate. It's a cake tray of what we've got now compared to what this lot are dealing with, and just not knowing every minute of what's going to happen next in this show. Like, I was so engrossed, and like I was just couldn't stop watching. Obviously the subtitles help because you've got to pay attention. You can't be on your phone, or wandering about doing your laundry.
You've got to pay attention to the whole thing for this to make sense, because like the reason why you got subtitles on, because you can't fucking speak Japanese, and even if you could, like, you're going to be paying attention anyway. But yeah,
you've got to be 100%, and it just, the way it just uses that is like as a weapon to like draw you in and make you feel that tension and make you feel that stress.
And again, no, there's barely no English in this. The only person who speaks English is when the Portuguese change over to their natives and then it's talking to the fucking
So that took me a little while to kind of get my head around, right? Because it's like, okay, when they're speaking English, they're not really speaking English. They're speaking Portuguese, you know, because the Japanese are having some dealings with the Portuguese already by the time we get into this. And John Blackthorne, being a man of the world, he can speak Portuguese as well. But for the benefit of like just what I think they were trying to make it less complicated by having them just speak English. It's like in is it The Hunt for Red October, where at the beginning they're all speaking Russian, and then it does that camera switch, and then it just transitions into English, and then it's like and then it's like they're speaking Russian, but for the purposes of you being a fly on the wall watching this story, now they're speaking English. Kind of get on with it. And part of me kind of hoped, like, again, how they use kind of like the nature of the medium and the language barrier to kind of enhance the story. I kind of almost wish they would have had the Portuguese just be important, just subtitle the whole thing, you know? But then maybe it would have been harder to find actors who could speak Japanese and Portuguese, as opposed to being easier to have actors who can speak Japanese and English. So I feel like it was more of a logistical decision made more than a creative one. I don't know. Did that bother you at all?
No, I thought it was to get Blackthorne's character over, pretty much, to show his voice. Because look, when he does open his voice, everyone's like, "Wait, give me your shit now." The fuck you say?
Yeah, like, and he does have some great English lines in there, so I do think you have a valid point. Yeah. For sure. Because it would have been harder for us to invest in him if he's speaking a second language, and like you say, we just get to see him as he would be sort of in his day-to-day life, and we get his personality coming through. So I'll tell you what, man, you fucking sold me on that. Absolutely sold me on that.
One of my favourite scenes, like when they come out of the house, they want his weapons, or it's the day before that. I'm not sure, the episode before that, and he's like, "Come in, right, bend over. Fuck you, you sniveling fucking wretch. I hope you fucking die. Fuck you." And it's just, did you understand that? Yes, I did. Don't tell him.
He's got a great bit later on in the series. I think it's like episode 5 or 6, where they're sneaking Toranaga out of the village or out of the fortress in that little carry-on thing, and the guards go to look in it. So he does this whole like angry British offended bit to distract him, and he's like, "It's not proper to look at a lady, you pony-haired, pompous, whatever he calls him." And then Mariko's like looking at him, and he's like, I think with the pony bit a bit too far, like. There's so much great stuff as well with the translation of it all, and how like the dynamic how that kind of changes it, because you've got sometimes before he's got Mariko translated for him, he's got nobody, and then eventually we roll in with these Portuguese priests who are not on his side whatsoever, and they're translating not entirely accurately to kind of make him like look worse than what he is,
like a fucking barbarian,
and he doesn't know what they're saying, but he can tell, like he can infer from like the tone and the reaction of everyone. It's like, this dude's not translating me 100% properly, and he's he's taking me for a right mug here, and this is not going to help my situation. This is going to get me boiled so much quicker or slower, depending on which way you like. But and then that relief when he gets Mariko as a translator, but then even then she's not always translating him 100%, but she's kind of trying to do it more always in his favor, but just in the favor of like diplomacy and kind of keeping everyone like, kind of centered, because he'll be like, "Well, I bloody well will not do that," and then she'll translate it and she'll be like, "He politely refuses," And it's like, okay, you're a lifesaver. Like, she is absolutely like
yeah,
the lifeblood and the glue that holds this whole show together.
You find yourself liking her really, really quickly, and you find out her story, like what her story is. You're just like, oh.
Well, everyone's had a rough go, you know. That nobody's had the fact, and again, saying like how treacherous it is to live in these times in this part of the world. If anyone's over the age of 25, you must have lived a hard life, because it is a fucking danger every day. So if you're making it into your 30s, you've seen some shit, and you've had a miracle every day to fucking get you to that point.
Yep.
You know, and she's definitely had some hardship, you know. And again, sometimes I found it kind of hard to keep track of, okay, so like this person was with this group and then they tried to assassinate this person, and now then they've had to be brought over as like a token of like diplomacy or whatever. And now this person's got to come over here, but this person killed that person, and like this person dishonored this group. It's very much, and it doesn't let up. You've got to constantly like be paying attention, because it is always a new fold, a new layer, a new dynamic, which I think works for me for the most part. I do think it kind of towards the end, I'm just like, because I kind of expected everything to like get to a point where it's like, okay, we've kind of got the lay of the land now, and now let's just let it play out. But right up until the very last minute of the last episode, they're still throwing you curveballs, and you're still finding out new things about different characters. And I don't know, I feel like it got a little bit too twisty and turny for me by the end of it. But for the most part, I do think it worked.
It feels like we've been spun around. It's like, stop there, we'll spin you the other way, fucking stop there, walk 20 feet without landing on your face.
Yeah, but right when you think you're going to be walking 20 feet, then somebody sticks their foot out. You know what I mean? Like,
watch the road.
And yeah, it kept me engrossed, but also sometimes it felt like it was trying to be a bit too intricate for its own good. I would have liked to have let things kind of, you know, not just sit, but just every now and then, you know, just let things kind of settle for a little while before we roll into the next thing. You know, we're going to slow down a little. I'm a simple man. I'm already following different languages. I'm reading, I'm learning new cultures. I've got all this stuff going on. And now all of a sudden you've got to tell me at the last minute, this guy spoke a different language the whole time, or whatever it is, you know, like, just maybe I'm a little bit dumb. Okay. But, you know, and maybe I've just been watching Obi-Wan for 3 years. Maybe I'm that guy. I'm not. Hated it. But, you know, I just, sometimes I did find it a little bit hard to follow, and trying to keep track of everyone and everyone's relationships. But what keeps you engrossed is that, you know, all the performances and how everyone clearly has these pre-established, like, you believe all of the relationships that are already there. You might, and again, like John Blackthorne, you might not know exactly the details or the full extent or nature of these relationships, but you can tell that what these people are feeling and what these people are believing, like, they are 100%, that is what they're feeling or what they're believing, you know?
It gives you like thorough, like, how it makes you feel like you don't need to know these people's origins or backstory of how they are. Like, if they come in and say they're your brother, that's their brother. Cool. Who are we to fucking, like, all right, cool. That's you.
Yeah, right, we can infer enough to be invested in it without necessarily understanding. Yeah,
they tell you, oh, this is my friend. Cool, it's your friend. Move on. Don't go on a massive tangent of why this person came into my life. Like, you see a video, like a picture of, like, that's them. This is what you need to know. This is their character now. That's what you're getting.
I do think this would benefit from, like, watching it again. Maybe I got everything I needed out of this, and I'm not likely to watch this again, but I think if I did, I would definitely, it would unlock different layers, and I would have different levels of appreciation for more of the nuances going on with some of the character
Yeah, you'll see all, like,
relationships.
you'll get all the little, like, all the spy bits as well, like
Yeah.
about the uh, how Hiroyuki wants to become the Shogun, and like how he was like he doesn't want the power of Shogun, but you know, in his hearts of hearts, he's always wanted to be fucking Shogun, and he, oh, by God, is he gonna fucking get it?
Yeah. I just think for 10 hours, a rewatch is, in this day and age, rewatching all of this is a no easy undertaking. Like,
Oh no,
you know, there would have to be another global crisis for me to be locked in my house for like another 6 months. And I do not want that to happen for any of us. But if it did, I would probably come back and give this another go. But I just, and maybe I'll feel differently in a few months, because, you know, I've been watching this out. It's been a bit of a crazy week or so. I'll be like 2 episodes of Shogun, then an X-Men movie, which we'll get to later, and then another 3 episodes of Shogun, then more X-Men, animated series X-Men, you know, then another couple of episodes of Shogun, then X-Men 2. Like, it's been a lot for me to take in. You know, I needed those little breaks though, because you could not binge this. I think it would work as a binge if you were going to kind of do it that way, like over like a weekend. But
yeah.
the tension is so thick. I wouldn't be good.
This show
Wouldn't be good for your
end
soul.
up. Yeah, this show would end up being like a Rosetta Stone. You'd be speaking Japanese in your sleep, or sitting up and be like, "Oh no!" It's like, what the fuck?
Speaking of which, it is really, they did a really good job of watching the journey of John Blackthorne as he sort of, you know, he's picking up the language, you know, in little bits and pieces. And it's not like, you know, like something like The Last Samurai, Tom Cruise would have been speaking Japanese like that. You know, he'd just been there like 3 weeks and all of a sudden he just knows it better than everyone else because he's Tom Cruise or whatever. But like, he stumbles and he's grasping little pieces, and it's not just the language that he's having to like learn and get to grips with. It's, you know, the elements of the culture and how things work and kind of what's expected of different people. And, you know, he has to get out of this box of like trying to apply like this Western mindset onto like how they're doing things, even when it hurts him, you know, when he's got like later on, when he's got like personal, you know, relationships developing with some of these people, and he really has to wrestle with, I don't get that and I don't understand that, and that really fucking
like
sucks.
The one with the gardener.
The gardener, man, fucked me up.
Yeah, boy.
Like, and he should have known by this point. He should have known when he said what he said. Is like, you touch my fucking pheasant, you die.
Yeah.
He should have well known by this point that
everything they do is literal.
That's going to be going to come back and bite you or your gardener in the ass. And I didn't even see it coming, because when he has the interaction with the gardener, and it's like, you know, what is it? A garden without a rock is just a place for growing things. You know, there's a lot of like profound, you know, meaningful stuff like that kind of gets said throughout this series. You know, because while they might be, you know, this is what is so frustrating with this culture, man, from an outside perspective. It's like, how can they see all this beauty and everything they say is like poetry and everything is so wonderful and deep and rich,
the Japanese,
but then at the same time they're like, I'm going to slit your baby's belly open and watch you die. Like, why can't we have
very strong honor system?
Why can't we have all this beauty and wonder at the natural world and all this, like, you know, traditional beliefs and, you know, appreciation for our role in society and the role of nature and the, you know, and how everything all comes together, without just fucking ordering people to cut their own heads off every 5 fucking minutes? Like, but then at the same time, I can also see how like they would look at like some of the things that he does and kind of, and from their perspective, like some from what they see of like how, the glimpses they get of like how our culture works. And they're like, well, you've got amazing ships and cannons and stuff, and all you do is go around like, being a prick. So,
and you're Japanese, all you do is kill each other and fuck all the time.
So yeah, no. They don't fuck. Or I've got the quote here. What do? They have the rain and the clouds. When they experience the rain and the clouds, it's like, oh yeah, you're just talking about coming, aren't you? Yeah, okay, cool.
To a Western man and try and and make sure he does not get the wrong assumption, because he's gonna get the wrong assumption instantly. The fucking rain and clouds.
Because he's just like, yeah, well, whatever. Like we fuck whores too. Like what are you on about? It's like, okay, I can see what you're saying there. Like the rain and the clouds.
Yeah, the Japs are like, yeah, we wash ours. Yeah, and the bathroom is like, a bath, two baths in 1 week. What are you trying to do? Give me the flex.
I love that. Yeah, which is like again such a British thing, especially of that time. And he's like, I'm gonna like, if I have too much moisture in my life, I'm gonna catch a fucking black plague or something. Like you are playing with fire, but then it's that subtle moment of where they walk away, and he's like, and he's sniffing himself, like the and there's little moments like that of like comedy where you like on paper, or me kind of just doing it like that, it sounds like a lame joke you would hear in like a bad like Fast and Furious movie, but the way they just sprinkled in there, it's so subtle, and like the timing of the humor, and the fact that the humor comes from genuine like character like moments, and like it's just natural from like the situation, and it's not just like, oh, it's been pretty heavy for the last 40 minutes. Let's have a joke or whatever. They happen when they happen. Sometimes you don't get any humor for far too long. And then other times you get these really kind of like heartwarming, little chuckles thrown in there. And I think they did a really good job of keeping you going. But again, sense of dread all the time, no matter if the fucking he's smelling himself or talking about ponies or coming or whatever. Like there's always that bubbling sensation that something's going to happen, and usually at the end of every episode something does happen, which I know that's just like how TV works, but I've just like, it just got to the point by the time we get to like episode 5 or 6, I'm checking the time of the episode. I'm like, oh, 10 minutes to go of the episode. What's going to hit the fan now?
What's going to
is it going to be fucking assassin ladies in the night? Is it going to be cannons? What is going to be the fucking thing that, is it going to be a sake drinking contest? What is the tense, horrible thing that's going to happen at the end of each episode? And it almost got a little bit formulaic, I think, in that regard. And again, that's not just this show, that's just modern TV, I guess. That's just kind of how everything works. I would have liked it more if they could have shifted the pacing every now and then, have some stuff happen in the middle of the episode, let us sit with it a little while, kind of go back to what I was saying earlier. It's just every time like it's just curveball. It's just like it gets to a certain point where we're throwing in so many curveballs that a curveball's not a curveball anymore, because you're just waiting for it. You can almost set your watch to it. And I do think it kind of structurally kind of fell into a little bit of a, not quite a rut, but it did kind of get a little bit like stale,
when
predictable.
Is this gonna fucking end?
Yeah, and again, like, when is this just going to end? And it doesn't. Absolutely doesn't. I'm still watching it right now. No, I'm not. I finished. I promise. Where is it? I've got going through my notes here. One episode we get to like a big naval battle at the end, and it became very apparent very quickly that it was just all very dark close-ups of people's faces reacting to what's happening. Sometimes you could feel like the stretch of the budget, you know. And don't get me wrong, like, you can see where the money went. Like, everything in this show looks fantastic. Like, the cinematography is like movie level, you know, big wide sweeping landscape shots, and you know big broad camera angles and stuff like that, and all the sets, you know. Admittedly, it was only like a few different sets, but the way that they shot them and used them and jumped between like the different locations, like they mixed it up enough where it felt like a lot bigger than it probably was, you know. But then there was again a couple of times just like, okay, I feel like the budget ran out here. There's supposed to be a big naval battle. We're gonna make you watch it through a peephole, you know, like. Can
you see this? No. Okay.
but then to counter my own thing, like, you know, the performances of the actors and, you know, the use of the score and everything else, like, it all did a really good job of like filling in those stakes and like making you feel, you know, the weight of it without having to have these big epic, like, you know, battle scenes of ship sinking and all this kind of stuff. You know, sometimes less is more. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just a simple man and everything. There's a really great scene where Toranaga starts to earn his trust a little bit, and they're on the boat and he's watching him dive. And he's like, he's good at that. I want to learn how to do that.
Teach me how to do this.
And then he's like, make him do it again. Make him do it again. Make it. And it's like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. And it was so cool because I just think on one hand, you're looking at it and you're like, okay, he's earning like respect for like the things that he can do, as well as like Johnny's kind of like learning to appreciate like how they do certain things. But also, he's not just getting him to show him how to dive. You also feel like he's definitely testing him to see sort of like, how many times can this guy dive? How many times will he listen to me when I tell him to do? You know, what's his endurance? What's his loyalty levels like? You know, feeling out like
how can I push him before I piss him off? Like, what's his white like gonna fucking react to?
Exactly, just feeling him out. And also it is a show of like that mutual like developing respect, you know, begrudgingly. And I think I think that scene just works really well. It's like a metaphor for kind of how Toranaga kind of handled this whole series of like, you know, he is going to push everyone to their limits, see where that limit is, and then he's going to back off and then move in a slightly different direction. You know, like he's playing chess the whole time, but like a virtual chess where he can play a move and then reverse it and then play a different move. You know, like he's given himself, you know, for somebody who's always seems to be like backed up into this tight little corner, he always seems to have this maneuverability somehow, which I thought, you know,
just the look in his eyes, like he's always constantly looks like he constantly is always thinking, because he's just like,
yeah, and he doesn't give a lot away, you know, much throughout it. I tell you who does give a lot away, and in a good way, is Mariko's husband. What they call him, Buntaro, is his like friendly name or whatever. That actor is fucking great. Like, there's so many times where you see a shot of him. Oh, he's a terrible person. For the most part, there's a couple of times where there's like redeeming qualities, not fully redeeming, but you know, he's a real person, you know. And there's just sometimes where you're just watching him and it's like, this actor can make his eye twitch on a fucking dime. It is so fucking good. Like watching him, like the distrust and the whole, like, he's suspicious of John and Mariko's relationship, rightly so. But there's this great scene where he's like speaking to Toranaga. He's like, I'm pretty sure there's something going on there.
Yeah,
I want to do something about it. And Toranaga's like, so you're accusing him of this? And he's like, yeah. It's like, but if you're accusing him of this, then you've also got to be accusing your wife of it. And if you accuse your wife of that, that means you've got to kill her and then kill yourself. Like, and he's like, damn, fuck. Okay, maybe I'm not accusing him of anything then. Okay, I'm just going to have to live with that. And you just feel, as much as you hate him, because he does deserve the hate, because he's a bad husband and a bad bloke, even though he might be a decorated war hero or whatever.
Yeah.
You still feel his frustration of like, yeah, that sucks to be in that position.
I can't kill him.
And it's
Blackboard's definitely like,
yeah,
fuck your wife.
But even like the men, the warriors, the people who are like in positions of power and leadership, they're sort of beholden to the traditions of the culture as much as like the women are in different ways, you know. And we get to see everyone struggle. So it's an equal opportunity struggle, you know, which because I was expecting going into this, I'm like, oh, okay, you know, the women are like this super oppressed. They've got to shut up, make the tea, you know, not too dissimilar from modern day England. I kid, right? But, you know, but it isn't like, it's in a weird way, like for such a like oppressive culture, it's like, it's almost like more equal footing for the women. And, you know, they do have their own specific roles they've got to play, but it is sort of like on par, you know, it's still the same game of like respect and life and death that the guys are playing as well. So I thought that was really, really fun. There was a couple of scenes with, where you're dealing with the brothel, or what do they call them? The courtesans, you know, the ladies of the night or whatever. And it is like, yeah, no, just because that's what they do, like there is still like there's power to that, and there is respect to that, and you know there are ways for you know, for them to utilize that power and respect and kind of have their own influences on the situation. And you know, thought it did a really good job of illustrating, you know, like again, like the different sides or whatever. Talking about the brothel, one of my favorite moments of this whole show, because there's this thing of the priests, they want a church, and they're playing a game the whole time. They kind of want to get like, they want to spread their religion and increase their like power across the globe or whatever, and they're kind of trying to get this church situation. And there's this other plot going on, and I'm like, why are we spending this whole time with like all of a sudden the pimp lady, the leader of the owner of the brothel, whatever, the lady that runs it, and it's like she wants a bigger brothel, she wants to expand the brothel business. I'm like, what does that really matter? And then the way that it all ties together, where they're on the beach and she's like, here's where the new brothel's gonna be, and then you've got the priest, and he's like, here's where the new church is going to be. And he's like, wait, who's that over there? And he's like, that's where the new brothel is going to be. And he's like, fuck, Toranaga, you motherfucker. Yeah. Like, we thought we were getting what we wanted. And again, it's like a small microsome that kind of illustrates, like, again, like more like the bigger picture stuff of what Toranaga's up to, and like, just how he's just maneuvering everyone against everyone. The very fact that he's got Blackthorn involved in this whole situation at all and kept him alive, because he knew that it would create this sort of uncertainty and this sort of dissent amongst all the different council members.
It really does make you feel like at some points, like, oh, he's really gonna fucking give up. Like, he's all fucked.
He's selling it. He's selling it, and it's like a double bluff thing, because he knows that him saying he's going to give up is going to then rile certain people up, because he knows it's going to bring out people that don't trust or aren't loyal to him, and he knows it's going to cause them to like go even further into their distrust and their loyalty, which he knows is then going to cause confusion amongst the other, you know, like the whole with
fuck up down the line.
Yeah,
like what if like you
with Yabishinge and myself, I've been calling him Yabush, but in my notes he's Yabush, right? But yeah, like he knows that this guy is like, you know, he's kind of power hungry, but he's also like a little bit dumb and a little bit like, you know, weak and cowardly or whatever. And he knows it's going to send him off like to betray him, but then he knows that betrayal is going to then reveal other elements that are then working against him, that he's going to then use sort of in his favor. I did like your Bush though. I thought he was quite endearing as a character. That scene early on where they're where there's the earthquake and he falls over the cliff or whatever, and there's like the first moment where Blackthorn's like, I got to get, you know, you can't just leave him there, we're going to get this guy back up again, you know. And sort of how he's communicating to them, like, no, we're going to try and do this, and you know, he's just struggling through that cultural barrier.
Well, when
to pull him back up.
Water.
Yeah, when he falls off the water and he's on the rocks or whatever.
Yeah,
and he's like, we're going to go.
The first thing he does, if he thinks he can't get up, I'm gonna fucking stab myself. I can't swim. like,
what are you doing?
Why?
I've come all the way fucking down here. You're not gonna fucking stab yourself, and then I've got to go back up there without you and probably die anyway. Like, no, mate. Like, and again, it's sort of like, it's this whole thing of like devotion and loyalty and courage, you know, and John's wielding it in a different way to how they're wielding it, but at the same time, it is kind of the same idea of like, no, you know, we're gonna have this fucking dedication and this fucking honor about like, we're not gonna leave him behind, and it might be dressed up differently to how you guys do it, but it is essentially, it's the same principles, you know, it's the same level of like, you know, honor, and it's just coming at it from a different angle. And again, it just illustrates kind of the bigger themes of what the show is all about, really.
Did you see how many times Kashidi wrote his will?
Oh, when he
kept handing him, he's like, this is the will. Like, oh, so I keep this one? Give me my fucking will.
and he gives you another one, yeah. And then like the very last one is like, look, just leave my body there so I can at least feed the dogs. You know,
leave it to the dogs, mate. Like, they'll be better off. It's like, wow.
But yeah, what's her name? The DFL, is her name Fuji? Is that her name? The dead family lady. She
Usami Fuji.
Right, she was absolutely my favorite going through this show, and even though she killed the gardener, which I was not happy with, I was like, you know what? She's stuck again with like this whole, you know, loyalty and like filling your role no matter what the cost or what the implications might be, you know, from a different perspective or whatever. It's just like, no, well, I've been told that he runs this house, and whatever he says, I have to enforce with like my life. So if he says touch the bird, you die. You touch the bird, you die.
You die.
And as much as I didn't want him to die, the gardener knew the rules as well. The only one who didn't know the rules was Blackthorn.
He was old enough. It was like, I'm old enough. My punishment. Yeah. I'll take that. Right.
I'm dying. I'm sick. I hate my life. I'm a gardener. I feel like shit.
I'm getting rid of that fucking bird.
I'm going to get rid of that fucking bird, and I'm going to be this local folk hero for the rest of my... And she's like, that gave his life meaning, that it might not seem like meaning to you, but to him, that was more...
amount of fucking...
That was more meaning than his life was ever going to have before that. And talking about her, the way she like fulfills her role and dedicates it, where they're like, hand over your guns. He's like, nope.
I was just gonna say, my favorite part is the musket scene.
And then they're like, you've got you got to give your guns to her, and then we're gonna take them.
And like, he gets shouted at, like, give me the fucking guns. Like,
and then he begrudgingly, he's like, you're not taking my guns. You're not taking my guns. Like, she's going to take your guns. And then she takes his guns. Then they go to take him. And she's like, no, you fucking don't, son. No, you don't. Like,
come at me. I'll fucking blow you away.
He's looking at her. He's like, wait, what? And she's like, well, yeah, my role is to defend this house with my life. You're the owner or whatever, or
He's like,
inhabitant of this house. He's like, all right, mad respect, respect for that. So like little moments like that, like she really was. She's definitely my favorite character for this whole thing. And the moment at the end where she finally gets to like do the ashes, and he does that whole of her family, and he does it with her, and like I think I've got the quote here. Something he says. So she gets to scatter the ashes of the family, and he does it with her, and he reads the Lord's Prayer, whatever he does, and then he's got Mariko's cross, and then he goes to hand it to her to put that into the water as well, and she's like, no, you do it, so your hands are the last ones to hold her. And I'm just like, oh fuck, man, like, because she saw that relationship, like she knew what was going on, and probably the only one
Mariko
who really
did the same thing for her. Yeah, it's the same thing. Mariko did that for her, didn't she? So it's like the way it went full circle, that part is
absolutely devastating. Absolutely devastating. I'll tell you what was devastating, right? So the brother comes in, right, and he's all playing it up, having a nice drink, family time, everything's good, and then again, I'm watching the episode, like we're coming up to the end of the episode. This brother's about to do something really shitty in a minute, and then it turns out he's like, yeah, no, I've been ordered to, like, I'm going to take your whole village. You're not going anywhere. You've got to surrender. You ain't going nowhere till you do. And Toranaga again is like, I'm gonna be all stoic and make the decision. Everyone else is like, he's presenting to everyone else that he's going to surrender. He's going to go with him. Again, he's playing a longer game than everyone else is kind of aware of. But but for the whole show, you've got this relationship of Toranaga's son and Yabushi's nephew, right? And they're like just regular like buddies, you know, sort of throughout this whole thing. And they're talking, they're drinking sake, having a nice little fucking bubble bath together or whatever. And there's a couple of times where they like rile each other up into maybe making questionable decisions, right?
Yeah.
Including one with the cannons, which glorious, you know. But I'd rather the cannon than the boiling. But anyway, so then, and the Toranaga's son has that really nice moment with Fuji where he's like, I should have been the one to speak up. I regret that. If I had done that, then maybe your family would still be here. And it's the first time you kind of get like, because he's just kind of like a douchey, like young upstart up until that point, right? And then he has that really nice moment, and with Fuji, and she kind of gets a little bit of closure, like, okay, I really appreciate that you said that, and like he's opened up. And then later on, he's like, he doesn't even say that this is what he's doing, but you just get that like he feels like he's got to make up some like karma, all right? Like he's like, I could have stepped up and did something then, and I didn't. And she's lost her family. Now there's some other shit going on. I'm going to step up for my family, for my village. I'm going to go take this fucking uncle prick out. He's all garrisoned off, locked up in here, like goldfish, and he's going to go take him out. And what does he do? He slips on a fucking rock, smashes his own head open, and dies. I'm like,
that's
really?
a nasty fucking way to go. And even his uncle was like, what a fucking shit way to die.
I was like, I just felt so, I was like, really? I was like, that's annoying.
Get him. What?
That's annoying. That was so annoying. And I don't know if it was annoying because like I was let down and I wanted more of like a confrontation to happen, or if I just felt bad.
I wanted the nephew to stab the fuck out of this guy.
Of course I did. Yeah. Oh, for my nickname for the nephew, by the way, was BPN, the bald patch nephew.
Definitely got
Everyone's just getting fucking initials. I was just writing my notes left, right, and center. I got DFL,
the names are so
BPN.
long.
I was just like, look, it's not an ignorance thing. It was just for the purposes of me trying to write notes and also like pay attention to the subtitles. Sorry, guys and gals, you're getting shortened names. All right.
Just chat for a minute. I'll be right back.
No worries. So, in the continued tradition of me shortening things, you know, I'll read just some quotes from my notes. Hey, that should be a segment of the show. Quotes from my notes, because I write so many notes for this stuff and I over prepare. I'm like, I want to make sure that if anything comes up, I remember it, or at least I've got something to go off of. Because for all I know, he's going to go off and leave me by myself to talk to you about Japanese culture. And I'm the last person you need. Go and watch this show, by the way. If we haven't already laid it out, I think we both like it. Okay. It's a long, tough 10 hours, but it's very tense, it's very rich and very fulfilling all the way up until the end. Even if I didn't love necessarily some of the stuff the last couple of episodes and right into the ending, it's all great. For me personally, there was a couple of things I would have liked a little bit more, a little bit less of, and I'll not go into too much detail for spoilers' sake. And you know, maybe McManus will touch on some of the endings scenes when he gets back in here as we wrap this up and move on to the next thing. So, quotes from the notes. Toranaga be tricking. Mariko gets freako. That's a fantastic battle scene, by the way, where she's like, right, I've got to walk into the line of fire here. Like, my role dictates, you know, what I can and can't do. And if I can't leave this fucking place right now and do this thing that I need to do, then I've got to seppuku myself because I've not fulfilled my role. So I might as well just run in there with a big staff with blades on it, and I might as well just fucking go for it, because one way or the other, I'm going to come out of this situation unalived. You know what I mean? So, you know, either way, might as well. Mariko gets freako. Absolutely not stalling 1 second. Again, talk about my BFF, DFL. She's like, by the end of this series, she's like, I want to be a nun. And by this point, John's got enough Japanese going on where he can communicate. He kind of knows what she's saying, and he's like, you best nun. I might not get it, but you'll be the fucking best one at it. Like, absolutely getting me in my feels. And again, we come full circle for him just like fucking being so dismissive and just not getting any of this stuff, to just like, look, I get the culture now. But even though I get the culture, as far as I can, as this like, you know, regular white sailor man, I still don't 100% get why you would do that. And just like, well, I want to be closer, you know, to God and to like the land and yada, 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 not to downplay it or whatever. But it's like, it doesn't matter. I get, you know, I get the connection. Like, I get where your soul's at. I get where your heart's at. And I'll appreciate that till the end. Thank Christ you've made it back. I was starting to run out of steam. And also, it's like I'm trying to scroll my notes, but not just like have the top of my head on the camera. No worries. We're all human. He had to go. He had to go empty his guts, you know, like as you do in ancient Japan. So yeah, we're gonna wrap this up now, McManus. Anything sort of overall final thoughts on the last few episodes, or just the show in general? that you want to kind of get on?
The show was, let's say, the show was spectacular. It's a fucking beautiful show. It pulls at your fucking heartstrings when it fucking wants to, and it will make you feel like a piece of shit when it wants to. But it does keep you. It really does keep you in, and it makes you want to watch the next episode, even though that episode might have just brain fucked you slightly, and you're just wondering like, wait, what just happened? You're still like, I want to watch the next one. Like, what's going on? And
yeah, absolutely. Because I wanted to watch the next one at the end of everyone. I'm just like, I don't know. It's just so intense in a good way. Like, it's so engrossing and so like stressful. And yeah, you want to watch all of these, but you know, again, it's not always an easy watch. But and again, that's just like the characters in the show. You want to get through your life. It's not always an easy life, but it'd be nice if you could make it to the end without getting seppuku'd or cannonballed or boiled. So out of 5, I feel like I was just saying while you was gone, actually, I was like, the last couple of episodes, I felt like they slowed right down. I feel like episodes like 6, by the time you're getting like episode 6, 7, I'm like, we're really fucking cooking now. Everything's coming together in this whirlpool of fucking culture and war. The Crimson Sky is coming, like all of this stuff. And then, yeah, I felt like the momentum really kind of dipped in the last couple of episodes. And again, the momentum slowed down, but the twist did not. There was still stuff going on. Just like I would have liked to have just, I don't know, it didn't quite stick the landing for me. It was still, it was satisfying. I don't know. I just, it was
2 or 3 episodes towards the end.
Yeah,
you're just like,
it's like we are still going, and all the pieces are still moving. Will nothing just fucking
you still need
come to a head already?
Don't do shit, just yet.
And we don't even get, for some of the characters, we don't even get like a full conclusion. We get some flash forwards maybe and some hints to like things are gonna be okay for some of the characters.
No,
but we don't get the full realization of how they're getting there. Yeah.
What their bits are timelines, stretching off to timelines. Like, you know, him holding the crucifix, and he's in his deathbed, what looks like his deathbed, and he's all glazed over looking out the window, but he's still holding the crucifix, and it's like, oh well, that's him saying goodbye to that time, because he drops the fucking crucifix in the lake.
Yeah, so it's like, is that where we're going? Is that how it ends? Is that just him like
it's him
having like a fantasy almost of like I do think it leaves it open, because there's only one book, there's only one series, TV series from the 80s, so they could do more seasons of this. They could leave it.
They did say, like, one seat, or whoever, like, I watched it, they said there's not going to be prolonged seasons. Apparently one season's all you're going to get, and like it's basically lump it and like it. But,
I think this show has done way better than they anticipated. I feel like everyone's been talking about this. The marketing for this show has been everywhere. The reception and the reactions have all been absolutely stellar. I would be shocked if they didn't try and do another season 2. I don't know if they should, but I feel like they did leave enough. There is enough gaps where you could do a really interesting story as sort of where some of these characters could go from here. But as for now, I will give this a 4 out of 5 boiling sailors.
Quickly, did you get the whole part of when Toranaga says just before he takes Thingy's head, like, why does the dead man need to know the future?
Yeah, there was a lot of cool moments like that where, again, some of these people are just so fucking calm and collected, even right, and so matter of fact. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to kill myself. At least tell me this before I die. It's like, well, maybe you don't need. And he gives him some stuff, but then he's like, you know what, you are still a dead man, so fuck you.
But no, it turns
I did
out
like how he ended up like getting killed like on the same cliff that he almost died at the beginning of the series. So and everyone got to like kind of go full circle, even though there's 2 or 3 characters that there's still like some unresolved stuff. But again, if this is where it ends, it's fine. But I could go for another. I could go for another serving of this. So yeah, 4 out of 5 boiling bodies for me.
Definitely 4 out of 5. It's like that whole point of like, why should I tell a dead man? Why does the dead man need to know the future? It's because he said that in confidence to his second in command, but it was Toranaga's. It was his nephew that was always the spy. It was always the spy of the guy who's done all the fucking plotting. His nephew was always the spy for Toranaga. So that's
talking about spies. I would almost be worth going back to watch this whole show again, just to watch that fucking other guy who apparently just spoke English the whole time. I would almost
so dumb. It's like, no, I've been his spy. Like, I'm his chief spy. I would
almost want to go back just for that one, just to watch that one character. And again, the gardener man, like, that was rough going. And John after that was like, you know what, I'm fucking done with this. Like, I finally develop a relationship and start fucking understanding you fucking lunatics. And then you go fucking kill him over the pheasant. Like, that bird was well past its sell by date. Like, I don't know what kind of fucking grandma's recipe John was cooking that thing off of, but I almost feel like he was testing their patience on purpose. That bird was donezo, mate.
No, he was supposed to ferment it, but he all the shit was going on with him during that episode. He forgot about the fucking bird, and like they weren't getting his attention, so the bird just kept rotting. Like, get rid of it.
Fucking, there's the wrong time to be fucking practicing fermentation recipes, John. Like, just fucking eat the moldy noodle cheese and shut the fuck up, right? The nutto or whatever they call it. Eat the moldy noodle cheese and just fucking get on with it. Also, I just talking about the moldy noodle cheese. It would have been very easy to have had a funny moment where he's like, "Ooh, that's," and he spits it out, and they all laugh at him because he's a Western man, can't handle the.
No, but
he's like, you know what? Not what I would have made. It's no fermented pheasant, but this is pretty good. And there was it would have been. There was a lot of moments like that where there was some very easy, low-hanging fruit comedy moments that they could have taken.
Oh yeah,
and they didn't. And they saved them up and they used them sparingly, only when they made sense. And yeah, absolutely, this is top-notch TV. Like, I'd be amazed to see a season of a show that's better than this. But and we're only in May, but I'd be surprised if there was another show that topped this for me this year.
For 250 mil, let's be fucking good.
Yeah, fucking better be. But again, budgets are crazy. I don't mind. Obviously, it's not my money, so it don't matter if I do mind. But if they're gonna spend the money, like, at least have it be good. I'd rather that than like where you spend 370 million on a Fast and Furious movie that's just a fucking carbon copy of the last 5 of them, and it doesn't even feel like the effects or the acting or the writing, and none of it is good. It's like, well, where's all that money going other than on Vin Diesel's yacht? You know what I mean? So at least, like, it's got a crazy budget. They believed, and this is going back to what I was saying to earlier. They had a creative team with a vision. They gave them the budget. This is what we want to make, and they let them fucking make it, and it worked out because now you've got this, this not big IP thing that now everyone's been talking about, everyone's universally raving about, and I think it paid off, and we need more of that on streaming and in the cinemas as well. So what we don't need more of, because I've had enough, and I've only watched 3 of these this last week. I don't know how many you've done, but We're going to do. I mean,
that.
should we do this or should we save this for next week? Because how many of them have you watched?
Yeah, about 3. So I'm like halfway through. So I'm gonna watch most of them anyway. So
all right, because we're getting ready for Wolverine and Deadpool, Wolverine. The X-Men '97 animated series is cooking. The finale is next week, so we thought we'd do like an X-Men movie retrospective, building up to that. But we are already at 2 hours.
Yeah, well, we can do it next week. We can put some more.
Yeah, I've got a lot of thoughts about this X-Men series. It's a roller coaster ride, good and bad. And from what I heard you saying earlier on in the week, maybe you've got some hot takes on some of the other ones. So
yeah, it was childhood. We watched my childhood. Went to watch like all of the X-Men movies growing up, and rewatched 3 the other day, and was disappointed in many ways.
Yeah, I literally just finished watching X-Men 3 right before we started doing this show tonight, and you know, and I have thoughts across all 3 of these. Again, that's without the Wolverine trilogy. There's 3 of those as well.
Yeah,
and the 4 first class movies. There's a lot of X-Men. Yeah. I would love to have a quick chat about these first 3 X-Men movies, but again, we're at 2 hours and I want to do it justice. It might even end up being a 2-parter. We do half of them next week and then more of them the week after, because there's like 9 of these movies all in total.
To get through.
If we threw in the Deadpools as well, which we very well might do.
Yeah, they got to be into it as in, yeah.
But these are legacy movies. Like these are like some of the OGs of sort of the modern blockbuster superhero kind of landscape. Sort of the, you know, maybe not the granddaddies, because that would be like a Superman 78 or a Batman 89. But these are definitely the cool uncle for the most part. At least this first trilogy.
Yeah, what do you expect?
2.5 cool uncles. But yeah, so notice in the title, nobody's watching anyway. We'll edit the title before anyone fucking watches. All right. Keep your X-Jet seatbelts not in a twist. All right. Don't go flying out the back. Nightcrawler's not going to come get you. All right. But next week, again, it's so much stuff I want to talk about, but we're going to talk about it next week. 2 hours. Shogun, definitely go and give that your time if you haven't already.
It's definitely a watch. Definitely.
Fantastic forecasting. Drop your suggestions in the comments. Tell us your favorite Shogun character. Like, subscribe, click the little bell if you want to know when these are going live, so you can get the early access and see what we're going to talk about and what we didn't talk about and what made the title and what didn't. All right, call us out for being the lying, deceiving, money-grabbing pieces of copyright infringing, music stealing pieces of shit that we are. All right, and we will see you all next week. Goodbye.
Peace.